Hi folks, I'm just going to bring you an update on the Iturri Patrol Boots. My original video is on the channel box opening back in 2018. I've now covered over 500 kilometres in these boots, so I thought I'd just bring you an update and also show you where I am today. Because if you're interested in military boots, you're probably interested in military history as well. So the Itori Patrol Boot, I think the original contract purchased by the MOD was something like for 190,000 pairs. So these are probably now coming through the surplus market at a reasonable price. Yeah, I've found them to be very comfortable. I've used them mainly in the summer, autumn, springtime, not in the depth of winter as such, but I've found them to be very comfortable. They've been very waterproof. You keep them waterproof by leader grease. Yeah, there's no waterproof lining as such. Wear-wise, not too bad. They seem to be wearing on the heels somewhat, but overall I'm happy with them. We'll see how they go moving forward. To me, they are like a civilian hiking boot almost, and for walking, hiking, I think they could be a good proposition, particularly if you can pick them up now on the second-hand market at a good price. They replaced the Bates and YDS boots from the 2013 rollout, and as I mentioned, these came out in 2018. And there's a new contract going to be awarded this year sometime. Itori, the Spanish company. So yeah, to me they're a good quality boot, very supple. Okay, so where I am today is in the city of Leicester, in the county of Leicestershire, which is in the centre of England, if you're watching this from outside the UK. At what's called the Newark House Museum, and part of that museum covers the Leicestershire Regiment. They were formed in 1688, but they were disbanded in the middle 1960s and amalgamated in what's called the Anglican Regiment. But they fought in many of the wars that Great Britain was involved with in those periods of time, and they're featured in the regimental galleries, which we'll have a look at. Now, close by to the Newark House Museum, just a few hundred metres, there's another building which is now no longer open to the public. It's this building which is called the Magazine Gateway, and it's called the Magazine Gateway because during the English Civil War it was used as a storage, munition storage and gunpowder storage, etc. So originally it was called the Newark Gateway, but its name changed to the Magazine Gateway, which is what everybody in Leicester now knows it as. This area, there's a big university called De Montfort University. There's a pedestrian zone here. This just gives you the story there, and in the picture in the bottom right hand corner of the plaque, you'll see two men walking off, reservists going off to fight in the First World War. Look. But prior to the English Civil War, it was originated from the Middle Ages and associated with King Richard III, who was the last English king to die in battle at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, and he is buried in Leicester Cathedral, which again is only a short walk from this area. So if you were visiting, you could combine a number of different places to visit at the same time. Back into the Newark House Museum, we're looking at two cannons captured from the Russians in the Crimea. Yeah, obviously not the current problems that are going on in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine. This is the Crimean War that went back to the middle of the 1850s. and on one side you had the Russian Empire, and on the other side you had the British Empire, the French Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. And these cannons were captured by the Leicestershire Regiment at Sevastopol, 2 of them, as you can see in a minute. And they've been in various locations throughout the city of Leicester over the years, and as a schoolboy I well remember, that's a long time ago, the rumour always was that one of them was still loaded. Well, I don't think we need to worry too much about that at the moment. So the Crimean War, probably not many people in the UK know that much about it. If they knew anything, they'd probably remember two incidences. One was the charge of the Light Brigade, and the second was Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp. And she was renowned for looking after soldiers who were dying of disease, and more soldiers died of disease in that war for the British side than died of battle wounds. I think the total casualties for everything was in 40-odd thousand men died. And she organised at Scutari Hospital. The Scutari Hospital was part of the Turkish military base in then Constantinople, now Istanbul. That building's still there. You can't go in it because it is part of the Turkish military. But I believe they still have the lamp there. But you can go, and I've been to a small cemetery outside, which is quite poignant, where some of the soldiers are buried. And I also remember there was a British family with about 7, mother, father, children, had all died from smallpox, and they were there as advisors to the Ottoman Empire. So there's a little cemetery that you can go in Istanbul. Anyway, back to the museum. So here we are looking at the Crimean War, which was really the first of the modern wars. You had rifled firearms, you had telegraph, railways, photographs, newspaper articles, ironclad ships, all coming into use. Particularly the newspapers had a major impact when the stories of the British soldiers dying from disease, and then Florence Nightingale, who was really her main strength was she was a great administrator, and she got things done. She got the hospitals cleaned up, etc., and she used to walk round to the wounded soldiers at night with the lamp, hence the lady in the lamp. There's a picture of the first VC won by the Leicestershire Regiment. VC Victoria Cross was instigated during the Crimean War by Queen Victoria, and it's called the Victoria Cross, and there's some of the other awarders or winners of it over the different conflicts. And the Victoria Cross, and there's Lance Sergeant Philip Smith, the first Leicestershire Regiment winner of VC, for bringing in wounded at Sebastopol, and that's a Victoria Cross, but that's a replica. Victoria Cross is made from cannons captured, Russian cannons captured at Sevastopol, and they've still got some of that in the vaults ready for any future Victoria Crosses that need to be made. There's another article captured by, it says a private of the 17th Foot, that's the Leicestershire Regiment at Sebastopol. But this museum covers all the wars that the Leicestershire Regiment were involved with. Obviously the World Wars are covered, but other conflicts as well, as we'll see. There's the picture again of the VC winner. So there we are, the Royal Leicestershire Regiment, 1688 to 1964. The Empire Where the Sun Never Sets. And for anybody watching from America, the Leicestershire Regiment was involved in the American War of Independence with the American Patriots, and the various articles here. There's a hat that the soldiers wore. There's a Brown Bess musket, smoothbore musket, flintlock that the British Army used for many years. I think it was called Brown Bess after one of the English queens, if I'm not mistaken. And of course the British infantry was trained to fire a volley or fire a number of volleys at close range and then follow that up with a bayonet charge, which you can see in the picture here. Now the Korean War, the other extreme there is the Korean War, and during the Korean War in the 50s, a lot of soldiers were actual national servicemen on 18 months national service that ended, I think, 1960, with the last soldier leaving in 62, I believe. Back here to the Boer War, Second Boer War, and Leicestershire Regiment was involved in a battle in Dundee called Talana Hill, and then retreated basically to Ladysmith, and they were involved in the siege of Ladysmith. That's a Boer rifle, a German Mauser. Some of that artifacts from that period, like a water bottle there, haversack, and the red box on the shelf above is a box of chocolates that Queen Victoria sent to all the troops. Now the nickname for Leicestershire Regiment is the Tigers, and that came from their very long period in India in the 19th century, so they got the name the Tigers. And today there is a famous rugby club in Leicester which are called the Tigers, so that name lives on. We're now looking at a picture from the First World War, of course, another VC winner charging a German machine gun nest. And there are the soldiers outside Leicester railway station marching off to war. Now they've recreated a small trench-like scene with some background noises, which I've kept on because the filming's not that easy, but you can hear the sounds. And they've got some artifacts here from the war. There's a German Maxim machine gun and a British steel helmet with what must have been an unfortunate happening for the wearer. Looks like a bullet hole's gone through that. So as I mentioned, you can't see very much on the camera. You can actually see more when you're here in person. They've set up, although you're looking through a field telescope, trench telescope rather, sorry, at the German lines there. So obviously a film running. It is quite well done. It's quite cleverly done, just to give a feel of life in the trenches. Now we talk about the First World War, but of course at the time it was really called the Great War, because they didn't need to call it the first because there hadn't been a second. Now we tend to call it the First World War in history. There shows the big war memorial, which is on a park in Leicester, and the cost. I think, from memory, something like 15,000 men died from Leicestershire in the First World War. Now we're at the Second World War. A pair of ammo boots, which was used all over the different locations, and one of the one of the battles that Leicestershire Regiment was involved with was attacked by the German paratroopers on Crete, which was successful. The Germans won that battle, but they did lose a very lot of men. So much so, I don't think they were ever used again as paratroopers as such. Now we're looking at captured by the Japanese and being a prisoner of war, which was a terrible experience, of course, and the survivors of that coming back and dealing with the aftermath of that, both physically and mentally, how they had to readjust. Because the Leicestershire Regiment, like many regiments, fought in all different parts of the globe, particularly in the Second World War. And then if you're a youngster, you can dress up to be like a soldier. And you'll see in any picture, whether it's in the Western Desert, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, the men are all wearing the same type of boot. They're all wearing the ammo boots. So it really was a situation of one boot fits all. Didn't matter where you were, that's the boot you were going to get, basically. And the Chindits were a group organised to try and take the war to the Japanese in Burma, and to prove to the British soldier and public that the British Army could fight as well in the jungle as the Japanese, because the Japanese had this, mythical outlook that they were better in the jungle. But the jungle was neutral, really. So these are the standard infantry weapons of the time: the Bren gun, famous Bren gun, Sten gun, submachine gun, and Lee Enfield rifle that was used in the Second World War and moving past that, Korea and other conflicts. Then we move out into the gardens, and at the end you'll see a wall where we'll get a bit closer. I think they've got a Peter Rabbit exhibition going on at the moment. The wall at the end dates from the English, the castle at Leicester, and it's got cannon fire marks in from the English Civil War in the 1640s. So if you get the opportunity, there's a lot more to see than I've shown you on this video. There's lots of aspects of life apart from the Regimental Museum, and there's even more in that than I've really shown. It's free to come in. They open every weekday at 10 a.m. It's near the centre of Leicester, so if you get the opportunity, it's worth a visit. As I said, there's other exhibits on, not connected to the military, that the history of Leicester in terms of some of the manufacturing history, etc. These gates are from one of the stately homes from Leicestershire that have been removed and brought here. And now when you're looking at the wall, you'll see where the cannonballs have hit the wall, basically, well back to the 1640s. So the children, it's also a good place to bring children. There's lots of exhibits I think they'll be interested in as well. So anyway, I hope you found it of interest, and look forward to bringing you another boot video again in the not too distant future, with hopefully somewhere else that is of interest. So take care out there.